What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron DaoLockStone. So today we're having another battle report for my Molebron DaoLockStone build, which I've been playing on a Westmarch server called the Forged Concordance. And it is so fantastic. It's really big, tons of games, very well organized. I've been super impressed, and so I highly recommend it. All of the relevant information will be in the video description below. Feel free to check it out and we can adventure together. So today's episode was called Gift of the Allfather, run by DM Braino, who did a fantastic job. I'm finding that as I level up, the quality of the DMs has been getting really, really good. I guess there's a kind of training system, so newer DMs are restricted to lower ranks, and as I'm coming up in higher ranks, I'm finding really highly developed worlds and storylines, and DMs that are really expert at running complicated combats and things of that nature. So very high marks. I've been super impressed with the Forged Concordance, and it has continued to impress me. So DM Braino did a great job. And so today's adventure started with Bilbron rolling up to the job board looking for a gig. Remember, he lives in the capital city of Viscala, lives something of a swanky lifestyle. So once every month or so, he comes down to get a gig to finance that. And so he arrived at the job board, but he has been finding that as he has reached the steel rank, it's been a lot harder to get missions. There's not as many of them to go around, and there's a lot of players trying to get them. So I couldn't find a steel mission, but I did see Tiri, a turtle spores druid barbarian who was a copper and putting together a copper mission. And I was all like, can I come along? I know I'm just a steel, but I'm pretty effective, and I promise I could do this and that. And she was a pretty nice sort, so she was like, yeah, sure. It's a dangerous mission, but it's a 6-man team, so I think we can handle a steel coming along. I'm like, thank you. And so, the rest of the team was who was a goblin eloquence bard, an extremely flamboyant and weird and interesting, had a real weird obsession with toes, liked to collect them from enemies and such. There was Vargan, who was a human battle master. There was Scandal, who was a Dampier monk. There was Silasar, who was a sea elf fighter rogue sharpshooter. And am I missing anyone? I think that's it. It was me, Tiri, Vargan, Silasar, and Scandal. So okay. So that was the six of us. And it was a really weird job for a guy named Mr. Worthington, and we needed to go to a place called Nevermoor, and it was another teleport gig. So we just had to say the magic words, and the next thing you know, these crazy black mists rise up, and it was a very spooky way to do it, but we teleported or plane shifted to Nevermoor, which, goodness, I found out when we met our client, Mr. Worthington, and we appeared in this rather plush tower, very nicely decorated and had really cool couches and stuff. So I was happy to meet the client. He turns out to be a pretty slick Warforged dude, but very dapper and, mysterious looking. And apparently some of the team members had past experiences with this guy. And in fact, Tiri was so mad, she wanted to kill the dude. And for a second, I really thought she was going to attack him. And I was like, the guy's going to pay us. He's our client. Chill. So eventually cooler heads prevailed. And we talked to Mr. Worthington, who explained to me, because I was kind of the new kid on the block here, that Nevermoor is a completely different plane of existence. So Bilbron is excited. It's like his first extra-planar travel. And Nevermoor is a kind of a demi-plane that has a horror thing going on. It's very Ravenloft-like in its feel. This guy was like the intermediary who was hiring the Forged Concordance to handle a series of jobs. And I guess the big picture, and forgive me if I get it wrong because this is just my first glimpse of it, but I guess the big picture is that this whole region is controlled by the Lord of Crows, and there's this upstart called the Allfather, who is exerting a kind of nefarious influence over the region, and we were being tasked with executing one of his lieutenants, the fallen celestial known as Abbot Zaphion. And so I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. Celestials have wings, right? And I was thinking, oh yeah, I can get some wing feathers to decorate that javelin of lightning made out of the unicorn horn that Fargar has, and maybe for the inside of my genie's vessel. And so I'm all excited about this. And so we headed out. It was pretty, simple mission. Mr. Worthington literally gave us a map. It's like, yeah, you just need to go to this church and, kill this guy. I'm pretty sure he's there. And so we exited his tower and entered into this really weird city. Now, even though we had a map, the place we had to go was way on the other side of town, so it was like a 3 or 4 hour walk. And right as we entered, it was super spooky. And Bilbron saw this corpse hanging from a gallows, and as he looked closer, it turned out to be me. And I got really freaked out. And then I ran inside because I was kind of trailing along in the back like I usually do. The other guys were kind of, heading into the city. And I ran in right after them. And then there was this really weird guy that sort of greeted us that had worms falling out of his eyes and out of his mouth and blood gushing everywhere. And he gave us this crazy rhyme, which I barely understood. And then all these crows kind of flew in, and it just gave us this sense that we were being watched. And all of this spooky shit was happening to everybody as we were wandering through this town. And it was just freaky because all of the citizens were kind of undead, and they all had these worms falling out of their faces, which I don't know if that was normal or not. This is again, my first trip here. I want to say that they're not supposed to be like that, and that was the influence of the Allfather. But again, I don't know the big picture here. I was tasked to kill a guy, and now I'm wandering through this crazy town, and this is some weird shit. We come across this clearing, and we encounter a TFC adventurer that I guess the other guys knew, and so there was a little bit of a parlay. Bilbron was freaked out, though, because Fargar had scouted it and saw what looked to me like a chasme. Remember, I'm one badge away from Summon Greater Demon, so I'm quite familiar with chasmes and what they can do, and I thought it was a chasme. It turns out that it wasn't a chasme, just a demon that looked like it, but wasn't quite as strong. But yeah, still, Bilbron was freaked out and on high alert. And the parlay didn't really come to much, and combat broke out. And a very difficult battle ensued against a giant demon dude, and then this thing that wasn't a chasme, but I thought it was, and then there was a priest. So we were able to defeat them, but the party was pretty depleted. So we wanted to take a short rest, and there was an interesting montage there where we're kicking in a door, and then there was this person in there, a woman, and Bilbron was well, let's just kill her. She's in our way. And the dude said, people don't really die around here. We were told that they come back somehow. We ended up just dragging her out of there, and we had a short rest. And then we moseyed on down to the church. And it was this gigantic place. And so Bilbron stationed himself way outside, of course. He always does that and operates through his summons. And we were able to get through the front, which had a couple of demons guarding the place. But because it had all of these raggedy dudes wanting to come in to, pay service to the Allfather or whatever. So we just got in line, and we were all we're here to, pay service to the Allfather. Hail the Allfather. We're here to get some worms coming out of our faces. Apparently, if you ate the worm, it was this would happen to you. Again, I'm a little sketchy on the details. But what I do know is that we walked right past those guys into an interior room. It was a gigantic church, and then inside of it was actually a pretty gigantic room where they actually held services, and there were pews and things of that nature. And we tried to deceive our way in because the whole plan was that we wanted to get close to the front, where we saw through our scouting that there was a really weird-looking priest-like dude that had crystals for a face, and amongst this throng of weird undead people with worms for faces was this other hugely ugly creature that looked like a horse, kind of, but out of your nightmares. Anyway, we wanted to get situated close to the front so that we could launch an attack on this priest or whatever before he could cast. And Fargar screwed it up. I literally rolled a 1 for him on his stealth roll. So even though he was invisible, he was trying to get into position and didn't do it well enough. Got detected by the main priest, and so the battle was on. And this was a really tough battle because these dudes had crazy powers. The horsey thing had an anti-magic cone, which is obviously hugely problematic. And then the priest dude had this crazy psionic blast that hit you for like 5d10 psychic. Fargar got blasted for like 30-ish damage, and luckily I was able to cut it in half, but he was down to like 4 hit points, so I had to play it very carefully from that point on because I didn't want him to die. And we were able to defeat them after another difficult battle. So we again took a short rest in this sealed area, and we found a passage down into the catacombs where we presumed that we would find the fallen angel or fallen celestial Abbot Zaphion. And so we came into a small catacombs and we explored it and were able to find like 3 doors. So I put pictures up, but there was like a central door, and then there was like a door off to the west, and there was like a door off to the east. And so I thought I would send Fargar in there to scout, remembering a couple of games ago when I was at Strafe's table, and teleporting Fargar onto the other side of a door was really a wise thing and, saved us a lot of trouble. I figured we'd do it again here. And once again, I had to teleport him in there because it was completely sealed and not even enough cracks for the tiniest of spiders to get through. And so he teleported over there and he saw the Abbot Zaphion reclining on a throne, and there were like these 3 walkways, each one leading from each of the 3 doors, and it was over a 60-foot pit of crawling worms and stuff. And that's all that Fargar saw, but he didn't see much for long because after a few seconds he got killed instantly. And it wasn't by the Abbot Zaphion. So we knew that there was something else in there, and it wasn't that it was pretty formidable because it killed Fargar pretty much instantly, and Fargar's pretty tough. So we came up with a plan where I would send my summon stone golem through the center door as a distraction to, grab the attention of whatever it was that killed Fargar, and then the party would enter from the east door, and that would give them a straight shot right at the Abbot Zaphion. And so we executed the plan, and it worked more or less like a charm, but it was still a super difficult battle because even though the stone golem attracted the attention of this giant tentacle thing that would grapple you and then climb along the ceiling and then drag you over the drop and then drop you into the worms and mess you up with these crazy attacks, it launched on my stone golem, so that was perfect. My stone golem meat shielded those attacks, and then it dragged him over there, and that distracted it for a little bit. And then the others went in and started attacking, Abbot Zaphion. But it was still a really tough battle because the tentacle thing quickly disposed of my summon, and I did resummon it again, but they had learned really not to attack it. And by then the tentacle monster was focusing on other members of the party and was grappling them and pulling them over the worms and dropping and all of that fun stuff. And we were having trouble killing it. We got some really great damage on the Abbot Zaphion pretty quickly, and he died fairly quickly, but his pet didn't die as easily, and it was much more problematic than he was, I thought. And we were just missing it a lot. I was not able to be that effective because it was so high. I couldn't reach it with my Shadow Spawn, so I was reduced to having my Shadow Spawn throw magic stones while I was shooting Eldritch Blasts at it, which is, it's not really my thing. I wasn't really hitting too often. When I did, I wasn't doing amazing damage. But ultimately, Silasar managed to kill it with an epic series of attacks, including 2 consecutive criticals. So, that was that, and we were able to defeat the bad guys. And then I was able to recover the corpse and just draw it into my bottled respite. And we brought it back to Mr. Worthington, and he was pleased. We got our full pay, and we got a bag of holding, which Bilbron received, so that was awesome. And that was the mission. And I was able to sell that bag of holding for 2.4k gold and then flip it and buy for 1.4k gold a signet ring, an Izzet Guild signet ring for Fargar. So now he's got a ring where he can cast Chaos Bolt 3 times a day, and he's got the Javelin of Lightning, and he's got the Pyro Converger. So yeah, Fargar is all tricked out, and because that was a copper mission, I am now 1 badge away from making 7th level. Because I did have a previous adventure that I didn't make a video about, even though it was kind of interesting in that it was against sea creatures. I had to fight Sahuagin and a Leviathan, and we all know how Bilbron feels about sea creatures. But it was like an early version of the battle, or of the session, and it wasn't like fully embedded in the storyline. And anyway, it was like kind of a boring battle because we crushed it. You know, Bilbron was using his tactics, and it was not that difficult. So I didn't think it was that interesting, but it was enough to put me at 39 badges, so I'm getting real close. So yeah, that was what happened, and I want to thank DM Brano for providing the experience. Thanks to the team for being real cool and helping me get through it, and thank you so much for watching. This has been Bilbrons and Dragons. I'm your host, Bilbron DaoLockStone. See you next time.